Hey, this is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Ariels podcast, now with the Digitent Network. How's it going, guys? Hope you're having an amazing week. Before we get started, lots going on to Wrap Your Head Around Silks. Always, we have Roll It Out. 2 times a week, we hit the mat with foam rollers and balls and peanuts and all the good stuff, and we work on our aerial muscles. It is a huge game changer for me, just as a body in the air every week, 5 days a week. So join me there. It's totally affordable and a great way to maintain yourself. I have a full course in case you're one of those people who goes to class randomly because of your schedule and you can't necessarily hold on to some of the basic stuff. It's all there for you. Lifetime access, aerial rehab if you're coming back from pregnancy, postpartum, injury, surgery, the gap between PT and aerial class. That is what that course is for. And let me know if you're interested in teacher training as well. Okay, today we have Karissa Chen. She is coming to us from the East Coast today, but she actually resides in Taipei, Taiwan. She is a writer by her career, and a hobbyist. And she has a practice about 3 years. She had a traumatic birth story, emergency C-section. She ended up having complications and really had almost didn't make it herself. You're going to hear all about it. I can't wait for you guys to hear this. Let's get started.
My name is Karissa Chen. I actually live in Taipei. So I'm here right now. Well, the audience can see, but I'm in New Jersey at the moment visiting family. I have one child who is 1.5. I had him at 40, so a lot older. My occupation is a writer. I'm a writer by trade. I have a novel coming out next year. But I'm a hobbyist aerialist, and I just have always really enjoyed it. I don't plan on being a circus performer or anything, but once writing, which used to be my hobby, became a profession, it was I need to find a new hobby that I really love, and aerial is definitely it. So, that's basically me.
You said you live in Taipei?
Yes.
Okay, so was it just luck that I reached out to you and you happened to be stateside?
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh my God, this works out so much better for timing. But how long are you in the States?
So I'm here until early July.
Okay, so there's a window there. It's not just a week. Okay. Yeah. And then you said you're here visiting for?
Just family stuff. I had a family wedding to go to, and then I have some pre-publication stuff for my book. Just, visiting my editor and things like that, doing some meetings. And and then just hoping, just seeing my family my friends, because a lot of them haven't seen me since I was pregnant. So they haven't met my kid. And so I'm, taking him around, doing the rounds and seeing all my friends and stuff like that.
There's so much in your intro. Number one, the fact that you turned writing into a career, that is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So is this book coming out your first?
It is. It's my debut novel. It's called Homeseeking. It's coming out in January. So it took me 10 years to research and write. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh my God. And you're actually getting a real publisher, not self-publishing on Amazon. This is a real deal.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's with Putnam. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Okay. And you said you had your kid came out at 40?
Let me think. I was a couple months shy of 40 when I found out I was pregnant. And so I was, basically I had just turned 40 and a half when I had him.
Okay. And how old is he now?
He is 1.5.
Oh, okay. So a little fresh.
Yeah.
My Bean came out of me when I was 41, and she's 4.5. Yeah. She does do this thing where she's been like, Mommy, are you not going to be around when I get older? And I'm like, I don't think she has a conception of my age though. So this is what's confusing me about that.
It's probably just like maybe just regular childhood fear, like when you're
Maybe.
scared of like your parents leaving you and like dying or whatever. Once you have a concept of death, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I have a couple of students who are young moms, and I want to ask them if they've gotten the same thing, like, regardless of their age.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I should ask that. Okay,
I think we
so,
all look ancient to our kids, no matter what age we actually are. So,
yeah. Yeah, and we all, like, I don't look my age, and I don't even know what she thinks age looks
right.
like. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so lots of stuff to chew on in your intro. That's not always the case. So you live in Taipei. Uh, how long have you been training aerial?
So this is like interesting. So I took my first aerial class like back in, I want to say like 2014, back when I was still living in New York. And then I moved to Taiwan and I found a studio there, but I didn't love it. And so I kind of trained there for like, I don't know, 6 months before I kind of gave up because I was like not feeling the teachers. And then I just kind of gave up and figured that Taiwan didn't have any good studios to train at. And I think that like it, like recently in Taiwan, the aerial scene has like really exploded. So there's like new studios popping up everywhere. And like I feel like that's just something that's like from like the last maybe even 4 or 5 years or something. So I really started during the pandemic because before the pandemic, I was traveling a lot more and it was like hard to have like sort of a schedule and like, do anything in a more like regimented fashion, which I think like, taking a regular class, like learn something well, like, requires you to sort of like commit to it. But then like once, the pandemic happened, in Taiwan, the pandemic was actually like we lived a relatively normal life because we didn't really have any cases here for a really long time. I think the first cases happened or like the like first spike, which was only like a few hundred people, in Taiwan was in like mid 2021. So the only thing was that like we weren't allowed to like leave the country. So, we were like stuck on this little island. And so, I wasn't obviously traveling anywhere, going anything, but we could still take classes. So I really started taking classes in 2020. And then I got, first it was like one class a week and I was so into it that I was like at my peak, I think I was taking like 4 or 5 classes a week or something like that. I was just like, I'm not doing anything else. Might as well. Like, um, and then I got pregnant. So I trained until I was like, I think I was 24 weeks pregnant before I stopped. So at that point in time, it had been like 2.5 years maybe of training, 2 years or so. Um, and then obviously I stopped. And then, everyone was like, you'll get right back to like, like 3 months postpartum, 4 months postpartum, you'll get back to it. Like, no, that did not happen for me at all.
No, it's hard because life comes in, and the people who are doing it, like me, like I teach, and I have to show up. Yeah, of course I get back. It's my job. Over doing this podcast for years now, what I've realized is that fear and anxiety that comes up in some hobbyists when they get pregnant, it's because of life. It's not because they don't think their body could do it if they had the time, space, everything to get back. Like if you're me, for example, who doesn't have a choice unless I want to change my career. Whereas you guys, you're a writer, you have to have time for your family, your kid, yourself, and your writing. And then
To-
Ariel comes.
Totally. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause it was like, I was really sad about it. I was like, I started taking like videos. I was like, this might be the last invert I do for a while. Like this is like, like the last, like whatever. Because I knew that having a kid was gonna be exhausting. I knew that like I was going to be older and I didn't know how that was gonna affect me. And then like I don't have like a lot of family around to help. So like I knew I was gonna be taking care of this kid mostly by myself. So like I was like, I don't know, even though I kind of said like, oh, like maybe by the time I'm 6 months postpartum, I'll be able to like have time to like, I'll get in a groove. Maybe I'll hire a nanny. Maybe I'll have some time to like go and start getting in like a regular practice. it just was a lot harder to sort of adjust to having a child and figuring out the schedule. And more than that, I think part of it was like the mom guilt, like feeling like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so when I'm leaving him with a stranger, or I'm leaving him, like I'm trying to figure out, I'm navigating my husband's schedule, so then he's like taking over dinner and bath and like whatever, just so that I can go out and take like a night class. Um, and like just trying to figure that logistic in itself, I felt like guilty. I felt bad. Like I felt like I didn't have the right, even though I know like rationally that's silly. And like I've always been someone who has been like, no, like women should totally have their own lives. And like, it's really important to like have your life apart from your child. And I've always believed that even before I had a kid. But I found that like the reality of being a stay-at-home mom and having that, you know, it felt really hard to accept that within myself, because I was like, if I have any free time, I should be devoting it to my writing. I should be working. And, you know, juggling like writing and being a stay-at-home mom was already like challenging. So like on top of that, being like, I'm gonna fit in like gym, I'm gonna fit in like, training. Like, how is that gonna work? Um, that was like I think the most mentally and like psychologically challenging thing, which is why I didn't like go back until like very, very recently. Like I think I've been going back for like 3 months now. I think yeah, it was like March. So it was it was like harder than I expected, like the mental aspect of it.
So there's two things I want to unpack there. The whole stay-at-home mom thing, but you are a full-time writer. So like you're a writer. Like if you didn't have a kid, you would not be considered unemployed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Correct. Me too. Like I have my own business. If it wasn't for taking care of Bean when his father, my partner, he works 40 hours a week at a job, and then he gigs all weekend because he's a musician.
Oh wow.
And we have recently been like butting heads, not just recently, but it's been coming to a head because we have a lot of just like stressors in our life right now. We have like a house we're renovating, blah, blah, blah. And he said to me the other day, go get a job. I'm like, fucking how? Because everything I do is to support one other parent being able to work 7 days a week.
Right, right.
Now, I don't think he meant it. I think it came out of frustration because he's also had to go into a lot more debt than I have because he's the one making the most money and we have a house renovation. As a couple, we're doing different sacrifices.
Right.
Our sacrifices are different. And when you don't have that, oh my God, Bean's friends that have grandparents and aunties and uncles and stuff in town, I'm so jealous of them because I don't have that. And it would make a huge difference in our lives to have that support, and also to be in a country with that supportive families. Yeah. That would be nice. But, it's like, it's so interesting because, yes, we aren't the actual like definition of stay-at-home mom is to do the one job of staying at home and being a mom.
Right.
It's
right.
not doing half the bills. It's not doing your own personal like self-employed business. It's not being a freelance writer. It's not any of those. A stay-at-home mom is supposed to be, that's your job. You take care of the household. You take care of the kid. The partner is out working, making a salary, and they are the breadwinner. That is not the definition anymore of what all the women I talk to.
Yeah.
And it's really a thing. Because for society and for ourselves, I feel like we need to come up with different language for this because it doesn't resonate for me. Mm-hmm. And Karissa, you just laid out the problem of the that is the issue. Second thing I want to unpack and ask you to probe a little bit. If you were just going for a regular workout, going to the gym, going for a run, would you feel the same mom guilt? Do you think?
Probably not. because I feel like, oh, like a run, like a 20-minute, I could be like, hey, honey, can you just like keep the kid busy for like 20 minutes and like let me just like go for a quick run or like go down to the gym downstairs or whatever. I think because there is like sort of like a more like focused like in intention or like I think because there's like I don't know, maybe because the way I approach the gym and like running is like less goal oriented, whereas like with like the aerial training, I'm like I have like specific goals that I want to reach. There's a reason that like to me I like need to go every week and I want
Like
to do.
it's more for you and your mental health and your physical health and your goals. And so it brings up something for you because it's more meaningful to you and therefore taking away from baby. I'm just probing. I'm probing.
Yeah, and I think because like maybe I don't know. Like I mean my husband is very supportive. He knows how much aerials means to me. I mean
Oh
he
yeah,
watched
yeah. I'm
like
sure.
5 classes a week or whatever. Um but I think because it feels like it's something that's just purely for my enjoyment. Like I'm not trying to turn it into like a career, but also because it's not something that like is obviously when people go to the gym or they go for a run, like I think it's like an accepted form of like this is like for your like physical health or whatever. This is like for your
Yeah.
physical well-being. Whereas I feel like maybe like with aerials, it seems like more niche in some way, and therefore it seems like it's like going to a dance class or like it seems like it's like a fun hobby. Like I'm doing something for fun. Like it would be like the same if I went to like knitting class or something, like in that sense where I wonder or like it feels to me like it's like other people will think like, oh, this is just something that you're doing just for your enjoyment and it's just for fun. And therefore, maybe it's like selfish to like want to go and do it all the time. Um, Obviously, that's not like what I don't know. I don't know. And maybe
No,
there's
because
something.
you're talking about your gut reaction. You're not talking about a rational
Yeah.
reaction, because that's why I'm breaking it down because I feel like it is so common. The listeners can't see you, but you're also, you're Chinese, yeah?
Yes. I'm Taiwanese Chinese. Yeah. Hmm.
I am too. And not to say, there's how many millions of Chinese people on this earth? We are not all the same. We're not a monolith, but there are some similarities. And every time I talk to a Chinese or even any East Asian women who are in aerial who also have kids, there are a lot of similarities to me. And from an outsider's point of view, I would say that's mom guilt plus Asian guilt, right? In
Hmm.
one ball.
That makes sense.
I've had to work a lot on like so my like just being real. My white girlfriends, I have my aerialist group. They're all white girls except one is half Mexican, and then me. And I struggle sometimes with like the very slight cultural differences. I'm Chinese American. I was born and raised here. I don't have. It's not like I spent very much time in Asia in my life, but that family culture comes in, and they are always like cheerleading me to take self care to a point where I'm just like, oh my God, this isn't even realistic. You know what I'm saying? But I think like the years of that talk just kind of by osmosis, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I take the time regardless of what the thing I want to do is. And sometimes I'll feel a little bit like that, but I've gotten to the point where I don't. Like my thing, because aerial is my job, like writing is your job. Now I need my thing to do to just make me happy.
Right,
And it's
right.
not even exercise because the exercise, like even now, like if I make it out of here by 10 o'clock my time, I'm going to try to go to yoga. But that I even consider work.
Right, right,
I consider it part of my body care to do my job. So
right.
my thing is I like to, like when she's at Sunday school or preschool, like I'll go see like a 9 a.m. showing of a movie
Awesome.
and like stuff popcorn in my face and soda for 2 hours and like enjoy it so fully. And it's my time to, it's just my mental health time. And it took me a while to accept that for myself. And then my partner for a while, he's like, "What are you doing with that time?" I was like, and I was a little shameful, but not shameful, but I was like a little bashful about saying it. But now he knows, like, Carrie is seeing a movie right now.
This is what
She's
you
like,
yeah.
I'm seeing Furiosa. I saw Furiosa,
Nice.
and except for the little bump of I didn't mean to see a 4XD movie where they like bounce the seats. I fucking hate that shit because like your popcorn goes flying, you can't relax. Anyways, except for that little problem, it was a glorious almost 3 hours because that movie is super long. Okay, Karissa, it's so funny. Also, I want to tell my listeners because a lot of my listeners turn into guests. Because I
Hmm.
really, really want all of you guys. It's so hard for me to find you sometimes. You have to find me. And
Yeah.
the moment you tell me you want to be on and you have a story to tell, we'll schedule you. This is not you don't have to be in a certain place in your aero practice or a certain place as a mom. Maybe you're 10 years postpartum. If you have a story you want to share, let's add it to this collection of beautiful and traumatizing and like diverse stories. Everyone's like, "Do I need a prep?" I was like, "No, because it's just a conversation." And I want to ask you about all these things. One of the biggest things I wanted to ask Karissa is she had emergency C-section, and
Mm.
I had a C-section that was not an emergency, but it was not planned, and
Mm.
and it was traumatic to me. I don't like thinking about the day she was born, even though she's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
So, Carissa, if you would honor us with your story, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, my son came 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks early. Had some bleeding. My doula was like, it's probably nothing. It's probably just your body getting ready. Why don't you just go to the birth clinic, just to just double check. And so, they did the non-stress test. I was there for like 30 minutes. They were just unstrapping me when the baby's heart rate dropped. Um, and so they were like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" Like, they told my husband to like leave the room. Like it was like super scary. And then like they got the heart rate back up and they said, "We need to monitor you." And at that time, my doctor had said, if his heart rate continues to drop, like we may need to do a C-section. And I really didn't want to do C-section. I was like, that adds on so much recovery time. Like I, had planned for a vaginal birth, and like this is just not part of my plan. So can we please just like wait and just see if like the baby's gonna, like obviously if it has to be done, like I'll do it, but can we just wait and see? Um, and so we waited, and she was like, "It seems like it's okay, but actually, like, you are 3 centimeters dilated." So they admitted me. I was dilating super fast. And so, like, we were feeling optimistic. But during the night, my baby's heart rate dropped another time. They got it back up. And then, like, 2 times in a row, they got it back up. And then at around, like, I was 8 centimeters dilated, and the baby's heart rate dropped, and they could not get it back up for a minute, for like over a minute or something like that. I can't remember. It was a
And it
blur.
just slowed down.
It just like dropped. Like it was like dropped down to like, I don't remember what it was, but it just like plummeted. And they just could not, they had their fingers up my cervix, like they were like trying to like shake me from the inside to like try to get the baby to like stimulate and like get up. They finally got it up, and at that point we were like, I mean, I knew. I was just like, let's just get me in for C-section. Like this is bad. Like I don't want this to keep happening, and I was scared. So they wheeled me in for a C-section, and my doula, who's done a lot of births at this birth center, was like, that was the first time she had seen two doctors come in. She was like, there's always just been one doctor, but they had like a second pair of hands on board just in case. And I was like, just in case of what? She was like, I don't know. She was like, the only time that I've ever seen them have like a second pair, second doctor. So it was crazy because I was, drugged up and shivering, and they wouldn't let my husband in until like last minute. He came in, I started talking to him because I was like trying to calm my nerves. I think I was just trying to have a normal conversation with him. And all of a sudden I hear baby cry. And I didn't even know they had started the C-section. Like I had no idea. So I was like, is that a baby? And he was like, yeah, it's our baby. And I was like, it's over. Like the C-section happened. Um, but they took him immediately. They said that, he had pooped in the womb, and so that was probably causing part of his distress. He was very small. He was like 5 pounds, 5 ounces or something like that. And so then they whisked. I saw him for like a second. Like, yeah, he took a couple pictures and they whisked him off. So that was like the emergency C-section part, but was very not great. I did not like it. And then like my recovery was rough because I just couldn't, they tell you to like try to move your first day or whatever. I just couldn't do it. And then the second day I started to feel really weird. Um, my heart rate dropped. I felt very strange. And the doctor came in and like his face turned like sheet white. He was like, we were at a birth center. We weren't at a big hospital. So he was like, I think we need to send you to a different hospital. Like, we need to send you to a big hospital. Um, they were very worried that like I had an amniotic embolism. And so
What is that?
when you get like a clot from your amniotic fluid, and it's usually catastrophic, it's like 80% of the time, it's like it can be catastrophic. Um, like people other stories that I read about it, like, the women just like pass out, like, and they like it's like a stroke, basically, I think. I don't know. I didn't read too much about it afterwards because I was like, I don't even really want to know. Um, and so my husband brought in the baby. We thought it was for the last time. Like they were basically like, she might die. Um,
Oh my
and so
God.
yeah, they brought the baby in. My husband like videotaped me with the baby, and then like I was kind of like very faint at that point, so I don't really remember like that well. And then they wheeled me to the other hospital. They got an ambulance to come, and but by the time I got there, I was feeling a little bit better, and the best guess that they had, like they did all these heart tests and everything because my heart was feeling funny. Their best guess is that there was a clot, but it was very small and it passed through and it was absorbed by my system as opposed to like, attacking me and killing me. Um, so, after like 12 hours in the ER, they sent me back. And then I felt better from there on out, but it was a very horrible couple of days. And my husband immediately was just like, we're not having another child. He was like, do you need me to get a vasectomy? Because I will do it now.
Oh my God,
Uh,
he's so traumatized.
he was totally traumatized. He was like so traumatized. It's the only time I've ever seen my husband cry. Like he's not a crier, but he was crying
Well, because
and
he almost lost you. Yeah.
he was terrified. So yeah, that was fun.
Well, and did your baby go into NICU?
No, so he was okay. I mean, he was jaundiced, but that was about it. He had just made the cutoff of like how in Taiwan they do it by grams. So I think like the minimum cutoff, if you are under 2,500 grams, which is about 5 pounds, you have to go to the NICU, but he was 2,540. So he was just above and he, tested okay. He did have like a couple of incidents where like his like lips turned blue and like we were like, oh my God, he's like free because he couldn't regulate his temperature and he was so small. So we were a little bit scared like here and there too, but at the end like he was okay. So yeah, we were very lucky. He was mostly fine and um it was just me that like scared my husband once that was over. So my husband was just like, that was enough. Once is enough.
So how, like the meconium, how much was that the reason? Did they guess that was the reason why the heart was going up and down?
They guessed that he was distressed. Like he hadn't, they checked and they were like, he didn't inhale any of it. So that was lucky. But they feel like maybe because he had like pooped that it was causing him distress. But they don't know because they were like, that probably happened like later. So we don't know like some babies just don't tolerate contractions that well. And so like he already wasn't tolerating the contractions and then he pooped and they're like, maybe he pooped out of like stress. And then like, that just like made it worse. And then so his heart rate kept dropping and we don't know. Now that he's out, I'm like, oh yeah, he's like a little bit sensitive. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Okay, so so it's been about a year since then, and you're talking about it. What's it like to talk about it?
I think I've gotten to a point where I can talk about it and talk about it like it was just a thing that happened without like thinking about it too much. If I think about it too much, it like upsets me. And like when sometimes I'm scrolling Instagram and like traumatic birth stories just show up in my feed. And then when I like read something that's a little too similar, like I start to feel really like I start to feel panicky. And I feel like I want to throw up. But but I think that like talking about it, I am able to do so with like an emotional wall up so
Yeah.
that it doesn't affect me. But yeah, like if I think about it too much, it like still is very upsetting to me and like makes me nauseous. I just, I'm talking to you right now, but I'm not really thinking about what's coming out of my mouth.
Right. Yeah, and in enough space and time it becomes easier, I think, as with anything.
Yeah.
But I do thank you for telling us because it's not necessarily easy to recall these things. I don't talk about it at all because I'm just like, ugh. It's
Yeah.
like in the same category, oddly, of me talking about like I've been divorced in
Hmm.
the past, like kind of in that same category. It's like let's just put those things in a box and put them over
Right.
here because it's not
Right.
happy, you know?
Yeah.
But okay, so you have recently gone back to your aerial practice. What is Taipei like for families? Is it better than the States?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very child-friendly country. There's a lot of like, there's breastfeeding rooms everywhere. There's baby changing, family restrooms everywhere. Like amenities for kids are just really great. And it's like the country loves children. So like even when you're just sort of like walking around and you're like maybe struggling with your kid, like there'll be like an auntie willing to like help out. Like anytime my kid is like freaking out on the subway or something, there's always an auntie being like dangling her keys, being like, "Oh, it's okay." Like, like so it's like it's a country that I think like socially they're trying, the government is trying to support the kids as much as possible. There's like, free government run Montessori style like play centers for kids up to
Oh.
6 years old and you just go
You
and they're
can
made
wait, but you stay or you can drop off. It's like a
I
park, but like a
it's like
center.
yeah, it's like a park. It's just like an indoor play center with like lots of toys and like sometimes they have classes, but it's like yeah, you go with it's not a drop off. You definitely have to have a parent with you or a guardian. But it's like, it's great resource just to like bring your kids so that you don't have to buy a million toys at
Yeah, we
home.
don't have that. I mean, if you want to do that, you have to pay, like you have to, it's like they have like these like Discovery Zone,
Yeah.
whatever, and all the kids do it, but then you're paying for it as the parent.
Yeah.
I, I'm completely convinced that America hates women and children.
Oh yeah, totally. When I came back for the first time with the baby, I was like, wait, there's like where do I take the child to go change? And then I was like, wait, there aren't even public restrooms. I was like, I don't even know like where I would go to pee, much less like
Yeah.
take the baby.
Oh,
Um,
you're going to McDonald's or
yeah.
Starbucks. Like
I was like
Starbucks if you're
Starbucks
lucky. Yeah.
store or something. I don't know. Yeah. So it's like once I came with like the kid, I was like, oh, I suddenly realized that this is not a child friendly place or definitely not a baby friendly place.
No, and it is I think it's always been true, but it's being become publicly obvious how much America hates women.
Yes.
It's like, come on. Oh,
I
now
know.
we're not even hiding. We're saying the quiet part out loud. Awesome. So, Carissa, do you have any advice for women out there who are either in your stage right now with a 1 year old or potentially somebody who is sitting on that bed and they have to accept the choice of a emergency C-section? I don't know if it's a choice, but whatever that mental gymnastics is.
I mean, I think in terms of like the C-section for me, like it was hard to accept it once it had happened to be like, wow, like this did not go to plan at all. But at the end of the day, I think like definitely time, distance, be able to talk through it with like my husband and talk about like what had happened helped. And like talking to people who had gone through the same thing really helped too. I think just like knowing that like, oh, like you're not the only person who deals with that, who has dealt with something like this. And then just like being grateful. Like I think like at first, um, when my baby was first born, I think for the first few days I felt very detached from him and I felt bad about it because I was like, oh, I thought I was supposed to be like smacked with like overwhelming love and I didn't feel that way immediately because I think I was too traumatized by the whole thing and giving myself grace for that because like obviously like I love him more than anything now and like within like the first couple weeks I definitely was like, oh, like I'm so grateful that he's here and I love him so much, but it wasn't immediate. And I think if I had spent even more time like beating myself up for those things, it would have made the whole situation harder to accept. Even giving yourself grace. I mean, in general, I think giving yourself grace, right? Like even like coming back to aerials, like I was so demoralized that I couldn't do anything anymore because I had taken a whole year and a half off. But like having to remind myself also, like I have to give myself grace. Like I did this thing that was hard and it was hard to come back from. And, you know, if my baby can learn to walk, I can learn to do an invert again. Like that, like it just takes time and like we have to be more loving of ourselves. And that's something that I try to remind myself of. But it is hard. And I think, you know, being okay with it being hard is important too. Just like it's all okay, I think, like there's no right way to do any of this, and every person's story is unique, and we're going to come back from it the way that we can and at our own pace, and, find the people who will support you through that, and remind you that like you're great and giving you the space to like come back to yourself, whatever that new version of yourself will be.
Karissa, I'm kind of an asshole of a teacher to my students. And they've been struggling with their straddle back, just footlocks, cross back. And I was like, I feel you. You guys who've never done this or are building it, you guys are exactly the way I felt right after I had a baby trying to do it. I don't think they took it very well. They're like, what is that supposed to mean? I was like, that means that you've never found this brain-body connection. You're building those abs. And after you have a baby, you have to reconnect it. And they're like, I don't know if that's most super positive. I was like, I'm just being real.
In some ways, I think it's worse. I don't know, like doing it after postpartum. Because you know what? This is one thing that I found coming back was like, I was so demoralized partially because I was like, the first time I learn a skill and I can't do it, I'm like forgiving of myself because like, of course I can't do it, right? Like you've never learned this before.
Right.
But it is so much worse to be like, I used to be able to do it. And for some reason, I just fucking can't anymore. And like, that was so much worse.
No, but for some reason, air quotes, your belly expanded to the size of a beach ball and then came back. And then now you're trying to reconnect the muscles. I think it's the worst the other way because my students are like, so wait, we are in worse shape than you completely wrecking your entire abdomen. C-section, by the way. And then coming back and we are equal. I was like, well, however you want to take it. I'm such a dick, but it's like kind of true in a way. But let me step back and unpack what you just said. So I feel like there is a mental, even when I was like, I had a low-lying placenta. And so they told me like halfway through my pregnancy, I might have a C-section. And we spent the rest of the pregnancy wondering if I was going to have a C-section. And I feel like the loss in your mind of a plan or the loss in your mind of a vaginal delivery, the loss of your mind of a, air quotes, quick recovery, maybe it's worse because we don't acknowledge it as a loss.
Yeah, totally. Oh, totally. I think so. It was so funny because not funny at all. But like it was something that like I realized Very recently, because a really good friend of mine just had a baby in February, and she had a relatively easy pregnancy, and I think she had a pretty like planned her delivery. Like I think she had to do a what do you call it? Oh my God, I'm suddenly like forgetting the words. The where you take the medication to like make it happen. I'm like
Pitocin.
yeah. So like you should take a Pitocin to like, have delivery. But otherwise it was like a vaginal delivery and like went as planned, was easy and all that stuff. Not that vaginal delivery is easy. Like none of it is easy. But
Like they didn't
like
have to do a C-section. She
right,
ended
like it
up
was
with a vaginal.
relatively like, it went smoothly. And, there was a part of me when I heard this that was deeply jealous,
Mm.
and it had been over a year since I had my baby, but I like suddenly felt really sad, and I felt like a lot of grief for myself. Obviously, I was very happy for her. But I felt a lot of grief for myself. And I was like, that's really strange that like I'm still grieving the loss of, you know, a delivery that was the one that I had hoped for. And I know that like materially it doesn't make a difference, right? Like either way, I have this baby who is thriving and doing well, and materially, it has not impacted my life in any way in that sense. But I really still grieve the loss of like that plan, like the like having had the birth I had imagined for myself. And that was really sad. And it was something that like I felt silly about at first. And then I talked to a good friend of mine who had also had, unplanned C-section. And she was like, I think this is normal, like like we have to be able to work through like feeling like this thing that we had hoped for. You get, I think, especially like media sells us this idea of like pregnancy and birth as this like really beautiful, special, magical thing. And like I didn't get the special magical thing. Like I got trauma. And I think having to mourn the loss of what I thought it was going to be is still an ongoing process in some ways, even if I rationally know that like it's all okay, like it worked out in the end and like that's fine. But knowing that was definitely something that like, it hit me like very like I was really surprised that it had hit me that there was a still lingering grief over the unplannedness of everything. Um, Yeah. So that's kind of like, I think that's kind of like what you were saying about like, how we have these plans and it just doesn't go to plan, and like having to work through that, like, is can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and then working through it in the moment and then working through it after. I think they're two separate things too, because oh my God, there's so much going on when you're sitting there and there's the doctors and they're moving fast and you're like trying to catch up with it in your brain while it's happening. No, I think it's traumatized a lot of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of women out there who are gonna resonate with this because it is so, I don't want to use the word common, but it's a lot of us. A
Hmm.
lot of us have this experience.
Hmm.
So, Karissa, I thank you for your time and your willingness to share this because although you're doing it quite well, it's not necessarily easy. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on and, sharing the story. I think it's like the more people, women know about like, everyone's different experiences and how they're like not all the same, they're not all magical. I think that's really important in part of like not feeling alone when these things happen. And yeah, I think that has helped me, like knowing that like I'm not the only person, that it's not, that it's a lie that everyone just has a magical, beautiful experience. Like a lot of people don't. And that makes me feel like less crazy, I guess, when I do feel sad about things or
Or
traumatized.
less loss, maybe, because it's not like you're the only, this is, yeah, me too. Me too. Karissa, thank you so much for carving out the time. I know you're a busy woman with that 1 year old and having your own writing time, and for sharing this story, which is not always easy to talk about. We appreciate you. Listeners, if you would please honor me with a 5-star rating and a review. It makes a huge difference. There's so many podcasts now, and the hardest part is getting somebody to find your podcast. So please share it with your friends. Please share it online. I appreciate you. If you think that you want to be on the podcast, you guys, it is so easy. Ask anybody who's been on. It's a breeze, and it's just a wonderful hour conversation of listening and talking, and I would love to have you. I am with Digitent Podcast. I also have Greener Grass, which is with Kelly McVeigh. We talk about, we just like get on there and we have our, soul sessions. We talk about our lives, the things that we struggle with, and then we have amazing guests that I'm just so excited to share their stories. All right, my friends, over and out. This is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is Expecting Areas.